all of you sitting here and all of you sitting at home, how many of you are really amateur doctors? Now, come on, fess up. You are, aren't you? I tell you why, I am the president of the union. I have a degree from almost every magazine in the United States. You know, all magazines have, you know, stories on medicine, and I have taken a postgraduate course, and I am now a professor. Professor of aeronautics. It has nothing to do with medicine. But I tell you what kind of an amateur doctor I am. I had a rather interesting experience a couple of years ago. I was playing golf one afternoon, and then I was supposed to, the next day, fly to Washington and speak at the Wright Aviation Memorial Dinner. And I stopped in Wichita to refuel and spend the night. And that night when I went to bed, I had kind of a pain in my back. And I thought, well, you see, you've played golf and you were hitting a lot of golf balls, and you pulled a muscle. Now, I pulled a muscle right in here between the latissimus dorsi and the Gene Krupa. And obviously it was a backache, and, you know, I went to bed, thought it was going to clear up the next morning. Well, the next day I got up and I said to myself, well, now, if you're really a professor, this doesn't feel like a pulled muscle. So I called a friend of mine at the Mayo Clinic called Dr. Tillish. And I said, Jan, I have got a pulled muscle in my back, I think. And now I'm not sure, and I said, I'd like to come up and see you because I don't wait. If there's anything there that I haven't had before, I want to go and check it. Well, he said, yeah, well, why don't you come up and I'll meet you at the airport. So we flew up from Wichita to Rochester. It was about 2 hours and 40 minutes, I guess. And I felt like Walter Mitty, you know. I was flying my airplane with one hand and holding my back with another. And it was just like a scene in a movie. And we landed in Rochester, and Jan met us, and I stepped out, and I didn't feel anything. It was 20 below zero. Everything was practically frozen. So now I went to his house, and he poked around. He said, why don't I see you in the morning, and we'll find out what it is. So the next morning, I got up, and I started over to the clinic, and I was walking with what they call the Mayo hump. Because instead of walking straight, I was kind of walking like that. And I kept saying to myself, am I having a kidney stone or something? I'm going to have no time. It's awful. I got really scared. So I went upstairs, and he poked around a little bit. And we took some kidney x-rays and some blood tests, and I came back to the office, and he poked around some more. And he said, Dan, you have an inflamed appendix. And I said, you're the worst doctor I ever met in my whole life. And he said, really? Why? I said, well, in the first place, I have no fever. Second place, I have no nausea. Third place, I have no severe abdominal pain. And I have no elevated white count. He said, that's all very, very good, but your appendix is retrocecal. So I gave him back my medical degree. And I said, Jan, what do you suppose I ought to have this out? And he said, oh, will it go away? I said, do you think I ought to have it out? Now, Chuck Mayo was standing next to him. He corroborated his, diagnosis. And he said, and each time they're poking around, they're going, And he said, well, the way you travel, Dan, I think maybe it'd be safer if you had it out, And I said, well, when do you suppose I ought to do this, Jan? He said, oh, in about an hour. An hour later, I was being wheeled into the operating room. And it looked just like, Dr. Kildare or Ben Casey or something. I was, fellas were washing the thing. And I said to Dr. Mayo, I said, Chuck, you have done this before, haven't you? And he said, oh, yes, Danny, twice. Well, I have some advice for you. If you ever really have a pain, don't rely on any amateur doctor. You go and see a professional one.